Welcome, everyone.
Are we all in? Oh, look, there's still a couple connecting.
Yep. And Woody, I think we're all here right now.
I still see a couple connecting with audio, but I'm going to go ahead and start. Welcome, everyone. I'm William Wood, the Director of Cultural Affairs and Community Engagement at the Macomb Center and Lorenzo Cultural Center, and we're so delighted to have you joining us tonight for this really cool event. I think this is the first international Q&A I've ever done, so it's kind of exciting. Before we get started, I do want to thank our sponsors who are helping us do not only this event, but all of our events through this pandemic and all of our virtual events. Those are First State Bank, Hennessy Pub Plus Kitchen, Academy for Early Achievers, and also we're being underwritten tonight by Arts Midwest. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Dave Schroeder, our Education and Outreach Manager, and let him introduce the rest of the evening. And thank you for coming. Take it away, David.
All right. Thank you so much, William. Everyone, my name is David Schroeder. I am the Education and Outreach Coordinator here at the Macomb Center for the Performing Arts. And you are in for a treat this evening. We have Leo with us, one of the KODO drummers. He is originally from Royal Oak, Michigan, and a Cornell University alum. In addition to performing with the group, Leo has been active as a composer, directing performances, and also managing and leading digital music for the ensemble. So, Leo, thank you so much for taking time to be with us this evening.
No problem. Thank you for the introduction. Looking forward to answering your questions today.
Sure, and I want to let everyone know as we get started here, if you wouldn't mind, please keep your microphones muted. And I do suggest that you turn on speaker view. It's a little bit different on every device, but on my device, it's in the upper right-hand corner. You can click on speaker view, and that will zoom in on whichever one of us is talking. And then if you do have questions this evening, you can go ahead and use the chat feature. And if you enter things into the chat feature, we'll be able to, I'll ask those of Leo, and we'll be able to have that as our conversation. So I also need to let you know, as we're getting started here, we are recording this evening's event for the Macomb Center's YouTube channel. So if you want to let your friends know everything you learned tonight, you can go ahead and share that with them. So, Leo, as we get started here, I guess let's start. When did you first get interested in drumming?
Well, before I started drumming, I was classically trained. I started the piano when I was 2, and I studied the cello for about 8 years. So I was always into music, and percussion was something that I really did not do. And I did a little bit of Japanese drumming as an after-school activity when I moved back to Japan when I was in the 4th grade, but never took it really seriously. When I started tycho drumming was in Cornell in Ithaca, New York. We have a collegiate tycho team there, and I saw them at orientation, and that's when I wanted to join. And so basically since my freshman year in college is when I started drumming, and I ended up here.
Wonderful, wonderful. So how long have you been with the group?
I joined as an apprentice in 2013, and the apprenticeship is for 2 years. And after that, there's a 1-year junior member period, in which there are selection processes in between all those years. And so since 2013, 14, 15, 16, and I became a member in 2016. So if you take all that time together since 2013.
Wonderful. So you were just mentioning the apprentice process. How many members are active with the group at any given moment?
As for the full-time members, excluding apprentices, we have around 33. I'm not sure what the official number right now is, but somewhere around 30 to 35 members. in any given year. And as for apprentices, we have about 20.
20.
And yes,
Wow.
yes. And their first years and second years, both together, they're 20. So about like 8 second years, 12 first years. And as I said before, there's a selection process. So not everyone makes it into the troupe. In fact, this year we had our selection process in January, and unfortunately, no one made it into the group.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is it like a constant stream of apprentices working their way through the program? Or is it a set kind of acceptance window when you welcome people to join?
It's going on constantly. So every year we hold tryouts and auditions to become apprentices. And depending on the year, we have, some years there are a lot of people, some years not so much. But we have an average about from, 8 to 12 people who join as apprentices. And, every year that number gets cut down. Excuse me.
Sure. So one of the things that I was really struck by in watching the performance was that the work seems so physically demanding beyond the musicality and musicianship that's required to play these magical instruments. It looks very physically demanding. So can you tell us a little bit about your rehearsal process? How much time is spent working on music, and then how much time is spent just in other trainings or things that might go into it that we might not initially think of when we're thinking of music?
Mm-hmm. I think to answer that question, I should explain about the apprenticeship a little bit.
Sure.
The 2-year apprenticeship is, you wake up at 5 in the morning and you run for about 6 or 7 miles. And we all live in this abandoned like middle school in the mountains. So we live a very monastic life. So we harvest our own rice. We have our own we harvest our own vegetables. Everyone cooks for themselves. There's no television or internet or smartphones or any basic civilization, I guess. We don't have air conditioning. So it's freezing in the winter and very hot in summer. So you have to survive that 2 years in order to become a KODO member. And with that being said, once you join the troupe, you don't have all of those restrictions anymore. It's really up to you as a professional to look after yourself and practice. Because even if you get selected as a member, everyone in the troupe is dedicated and a very skilled drummer. So you have to kind of compete within the troupe. So in terms of practice, when you become a member and you join the troupe, we have practice from 9 in the morning to pre-corona days, 10 p.m.
Wow.
So, but right now, I think we cut it short till about 9 to 8 p.m. Of course, not all of it is just individual training. We have rehearsals with the whole troupe. Sometimes it's just yourself. But like I said before, it's really up to you what you want to do. We don't physically train as a group. If you want to run, you can run. But a lot of people mostly spend their time just practicing. And there are different methods of practicing. Obviously, there are people who practice fundamentals from drumming, or they just, have their own method of practicing. It's really up to yourself. I'm not sure if that that answers your initial question, but I could just say that we do practice a lot.
Sure. So one of the things that was wonderful to see was the performance that we're sharing with our audiences here at the Macomb Center is it's an outdoor performance. which is something kind of unique to us because, of course, pre-COVID times, we would, of course, love to welcome you to our center and have your group perform for us there. So do you practice outdoors, or is it, you mentioned this middle school, is the training kind of done inside as you rehearse?
During the apprenticeship, we do practice outside. All around our island, we do practice on the beach or in the mountains, but that is usually a special occasion. When you are joined the troupe, when you become a member, it's very rare that we practice outside. In fact, I don't think I've ever done it, just because carrying the drum is a hassle. And also we have a very, very great studio, a rehearsal hall. And so to answer your question, no, we don't practice outside. If we do perform outside quite often, actually, especially in summertime. But yeah, no practices outside, at least not right now.
Sure. So we do have a question from in the chat. Is there a spiritual or religious aspect as part of the training process?
Not so much religious, but I think the apprenticeship is definitely something that's spiritual. It's a situation where you're put into, it's where you're put into a situation where you have to get in touch with yourself, more than anything. Because the 2-year apprenticeship is very, very tough, and rigorous, as there are a lot of people who drop out. And I mean, you live together with all these people for 2 years, and there's no privacy. Your schedule is packed. You wake up at 5 in the morning, and you practice all day. And there are so many different things you need to do besides drumming. You need to sing, you need to play the flute, you need to study all these different traditional arts. You need to harvest your rice. There's so many things, and it is a very challenging experience. And the will to persevere and your dedication, commitment, all of that is what's important over your skills as a drummer. And that's what we look into our apprentices when we're considering them. So in that aspect, I think there's a very strong spiritual aspect. What I would say is, in terms of religion, this is not about the training process, but a lot of what we do is based on traditional folk arts and that are usually somehow related to religion. And when we study them, we do study the background of these arts. And if it has to do with religion, we do study what's behind it. For example, some of the dances or chants, many of the chants are Buddhist related chants. A lot of dances are Shinto related. But I mean, as a group, we don't really follow any of those religions, but we do study them.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So I do want to encourage anyone, if you have questions as we're going along, if you want to use that chat feature. So I'm wondering, was there something that surprised you, or your view evolved going in as an apprentice to now becoming a full-fledged member of the group? Did you come in with this mindset okay, I know what this is, I know exactly how it's going to play out, and then something changed, or was it what you anticipated, all that discipline and hard work you were just speaking to?
Yeah, so to be honest, my situation is a little different from, I would say, a typical drummer who wants to become a KODO member. I was not a really dedicated drummer when I started in college, and nor did I really have a strong desire to become a KODO member. I joined the apprenticeship because I thought it was a great experience to have exactly what you said, this opportunity to change my perspective on the world and grow as a human being. Because, like I said, I grew up in the States, and as a Japanese American, um, I have a different mindset than a lot of people here in Japan. I, I've had a very, I wouldn't say easy, but I would say I've been very privileged enough to go to a school like Cornell and have internships at, I guess, finance and investment banks. I was going down that path, and I thought to myself, I didn't want to wake up in 30 years and wonder what I could have done with my life. I'm not saying that path is wrong or anything. It was just not for me. And when I was contemplating that in around my junior, senior year in college, I was doing tycho. One of the alums of KODO who lives in New York recommended me this program, and I thought this is a cool opportunity to kind of get in touch with myself. And it's if all goes well, in 2 years you get to join this world-class group and travel all around the world. So I to be honest, I thought it was a good deal. So because I do understand how difficult it is to become a quote unquote world-class musician. My sister is a classical trained pianist, and I was classically trained as well. So I have a lot of people who are in the classical music industry, and I've seen it firsthand how difficult it is to make it. But so when I looked at the program, I was like, wow, 2 years and you can play at the Berlin Philharmonic, or Carnegie Hall, or this is like a musician's dream. And while I'm not downplaying the 2 years, it was very tough, and it still is a constant struggle to improve. But at that time, I just thought it was like a good deal. So
seems to have worked out pretty good there.
yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, but I mean, in terms of the apprenticeship, it did change my view a lot. Because while it is a competition among your cohorts, not everyone gets selected. Maybe out of 21 gets selected, 2 get selected. It's very, very competitive. But at the same time, you realize that if you want to make it, you need to have a lot of teamwork. And because when you're performing, if you're not performing with the right people, you need to work as a team and as a unit. And in order to do that, you really need to have compassion for others. And most importantly, you need to have this gravity within yourself. What I mean is you need to really know who you are, have a strong core, and just believe in what you do and constantly improve yourself. And that's really the only way to change the people around you, is to change yourself. And I think that momentum really, really resonates through the drums. And I guess that's probably the biggest lesson I learned, is that
Wonderful.
yeah.
Wonderful. So we're starting to get some questions in the chat here. So you were talking about this process of self-discovery. Karen is asking, are guests welcome to the island pre-COVID, of course? She was saying she recalls that there was an offer that one could go on a train on the Tycho.
So pre-COVID, there was I think we had what are those called? Small I'm blacking out what it was called. But programs where you can come and have like a 2 or 3 day experience of what it's like to be as an apprentice. I think that happened every two years. Um, I think it was called Casa Mix. I obviously right now it's not going on. But every year we had a outdoor music festival called Earth Celebration on Sado Island, and every year we'd invite people from all around the world, and guests will come watch from all around the world. And whenever we did that, we had workshops and activities where anyone can join. So yeah, we did have that, and hopefully we will get to do that in the not so far future.
Yes, that sounds like a time we're all definitely itching to get back to and looking forward to. So another question we had here is, there's quite a bit of ritual and ceremonial elements to the KODO performances. What do you personally do to prepare for a performance?
Ooh, this is everyone has their own different routine. For me, I don't have that much of a strict, I guess, like a spiritual, or like I don't do things like meditation or that kind of things, but um, I do follow the same routine every day.
Mm.
Um, I wake up at the same time, and I plan my day very early, and I kind of plot all my moves. I guess that's my way to get into a performance. Um, so like I do the same exercises, I do the same stretches. Something that I definitely do is I walk on stage back and forth to make sure my center of gravity is right where I want it to do. So I do different types of walking, and I'm very, very uh, careful of what I do. Whenever something that happens that's out of my control, like someone puts in something that I haven't heard of, I get really, really flustered. But that's just my way. I know there are people who would do like meditating or other things.
This is a follow-up that I'm just curious about. Has any of that routine that you found for yourself, did that carry over from your apprenticeship? Is there anything you can kind of harken back to those days and say, oh, I really found that this was beneficial for myself, and I've kept that with me? You've carried it onward?
Definitely. I mean, the apprenticeship, everything is on schedule. And so you're in the same groove and routine every day. And, it gets old or mundane, but it's one way to kind of keep yourself going. So I take that from my apprenticeship.
Okay, great. So another question we have, Kate asks, what is the age range for the members, the youngest to the oldest?
The youngest member currently, I think, is 20 or 21. And the oldest is, I don't want, what was it, 67, I think.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
But so they're the founding members who are in their 60s, but it's rare for them to tour with us. They usually have their own solo gig, or they do workshops. But 20 to 60, I want to say 7.
Okay.
Yeah. Is
Wow.
the
So you just mentioned going out on tour there. How often are you touring versus spending time on the island? Of course, pre-COVID times.
pre-COVID times, we would spend 9 months a year on the road. So we would be, in a normal year, we would be touring the United States or Europe at this time. So end of January to end of March. And then we go back to the island, and then we have month of practice, and then we'll tour around Japan until July. And then August, we have our celebration here. And September to December, I think we're touring again. Of course, we have tours. We're broken up into roughly 3 teams. So there are probably 2 teams that are on the road constantly. And one team does like all these different small performances or special performances. Like there'll be like an event overseas, and so we have 3 teams and 9 months on the road.
Wow, it's a very demanding schedule. I can see why the importance of routine for you, keeping to such a rigorous schedule. So Karen also mentions here, she noticed on the live stream event that there are several women, and that at the live events that she's attended, most of them in Ann Arbor, and then the first one was in Maui back in 1986, there were not many, if any, women actually drumming. And she's curious about what's the ratio of men to women in the group at this time.
Right now, out of the 34, I'm not sure what the number is, but let's say 34 members. There are 8 women, I think. But the number fluctuates, obviously. And to kind of add on to what Karen said, I think there were not many women drumming back when the group started. I think it's probably the 90s or late 90s when I think women started drumming. I guess allowed drumming. I can't say for for the time that I wasn't here. I can't speak about that because I don't know the actual history. But right now, as someone who does a lot of directing and who works closely with our leader, we're very encouraging women to join the troupe and to take on roles that I guess are stereotypically done by men. We don't want to have cast people based on their gender. Of course, there are good things and not pros and cons, but there are things or expressions that are better done by women and expressions that are better done by men. But we're trying to get out of that mentality right now. Unfortunately, we've had a few women leave the troupe recently due to personal reasons. But we're very hopeful actually right now because we have a great number of women in the apprenticeship right now, and we're hoping they're going to make it. So
Good. Wonderful. So you mentioned the training for the new pieces and things, and that was just something I was curious about. How long does it take the group to learn a new piece, a new work that you're going to present?
it depends. If we have all the music sorted out and if we all have like a sheet music, then I think we could just do it in one day, I guess. Obviously, it takes time to make it better, but a lot of the production process, we kind of do it as a collective effort. So whenever I write a song, I leave a lot of parts open because depending on the cast, they have their different strengths and different ways of expressions. So, each song, even if we do the same song, if we do it with a different team, it's going to be a little different. For those like new pieces that we create from scratch, it could take, I don't know, who knows, a day to a week. Some of our songs only take like 5 minutes to make a new song. I'd be like, oh, I have this cool phrase or this cool riff, and like, what can we do with this? And then we'll just like jam it out, like improvise it, and it's
Oh,
like, oh,
wonderful.
okay, let's do that again. So it really, really, really depends. That's my answer.
Okay, so so most of the pieces then are being created by members from the group. You don't have like you're handed some sheet music and say, okay, let's present this now. It's more self-generated material.
Yes,
Am I right in saying that?
yes, yes. It's very, very, not very rare, but most of the songs are created internally. Some songs we do have people from the outside make it, or
Mhm.
they have like an idea and then we make something up based on that idea. But everything else, most of the things are made by ourselves.
Wonderful. So I do want to take a moment again to remind everyone, if you do have questions for Leo, to enter those in the chat. We'll do our best to get to those. And so Leo, you were mentioning the 3 different teams out on tour then for the 9 months, and then the one team kind of going out and doing the special, more localized events. Are they all performing the same repertoire, or like you were just mentioning, if you're giving one piece to another team because of their individual strengths, it of course will be played differently. Are they all playing the same collective, they have the same set list no matter which group it is, or are they all operating with different pieces?
Each group operates their own way. We do not share set lists. I mean, there are songs that might be there might be a song that both teams or all 3 teams play, but each team has their own director.
Mhm.
So, it really depends. One person might like a lot of dancing, so he might put a lot of dance into it. I guess the biggest difference between those teams is that
Mhm.
there's the team that goes on big tours, like in big auditoriums or concert halls, and then the second team actually goes to schools.
Mm.
So they're school performances. So the target audience is a little younger, so they're kids. So
Mhm.
obviously, set list is going to be a little different. And then the third team, if we go to like a big event, or like, for example, when we did like the Rugby World Cup, or we did the Olympic Stadium opening, then we might only be given like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So
Mm.
obviously, depending on where we go, we have to change our set lists.
Sure, sure. Um, so you were mentioning starting out as a classical musician and then kind of coming to drumming later. Just out of curiosity, how many instruments do you play at this day and age?
That's a tough question. I tried counting, but um, a lot actually. Let's uh, at least on stage, I know I've played over 30 instruments, but I mean,
Wow.
a lot of it is percussion.
Hmm.
But if you include melodic things, I play the flute and I play um, a Japanese zither, like a Japanese violin fiddle,
Hmm.
and I play the koto, which is that's the Japanese zither. My mistake. It's a plucked string instrument, Japanese
Okay.
plucked string instrument. Play the drums, piano, obviously, cello, guitar. So if we put percussion into one big lump, then I would say 8 instruments.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. So we have another question in the chat here. How does the choreography and costuming for your performances get developed?
So costuming, usually we have our kind of traditional costume that has this. Maybe we can pull up a photo, or actually, if you watch the performance, we're wearing that attire.
Hmm.
I would say most of our performances were wearing that. Depending on the director. So we had Tamasaru Bando, who is a kabuki actor, also living national treasure of Japan, direct some of our performances. And when he was doing it, he had his own ideas of costumes. So usually the director gets to decide the costumes. Choreography is also mostly decided by the director. Whoever's directing the show will kind of direct people where to go or what kind of movements to do. But this is kind of, in terms of choreography, it's kind of similar to writing a song. The director might ask whoever is kind of leading that piece to come up with the choreography and movements, and then they'll work on that. And but most of what we do on stage is decided by whoever's directing the show.
Okay. So Karen here has another question in the chat. Is the group still using the very big tycho, the one that's about 10 feet in diameter? She says she noticed it wasn't on the outdoor event, and I imagine that it's a little difficult to roll across the grass.
Oh, the big tycho. Yes, we have 3 big tychos. They're called the odaikos, and they're hollowed out tree trunks that are I don't know how old, like 600, 700, 800 years old.
Wow.
Very, it takes about 12 people to actually put them on the stand.
Wow.
Sorry, what was the question?
Are you still performing with those?
Yes, definitely.
They just don't always like make it to the outdoor performances?
Yes and no. I think in that particular performance, we couldn't bring it there because where we're performing is actually on top of this big hill, and it just was not possible to bring that drum up there.
Sure.
So that situation was a little unique.
Sure. So what's one of the most interesting places you've performed? You said earlier, you alluded to that you perform lots of different places, beyond the outdoors or a performing arts center like we have here at the Macomb Center. Where's been a performance that was especially meaningful to you, or someplace you were like, wow, I got to play there?
Ooh, there's a lot actually. I would say, it's difficult. It seems like a long time ago that we performed in an auditorium full of people. That I would say performing back in the first time I went back to the States as a member, and when I performed in New York, that was a very special moment for me, especially because I went to school in New York, and so we performed at the Brooklyn Arts BAM. So I'm not sure what the M stands for, but so that was back in New York. So that was very, very meaningful for me. Performing at the Berlin Philharmonic was also very special experience for me because I was classically trained and I've watched videos and recordings from there. But there's just so many. Unfortunately, I haven't performed in Michigan yet, so that's something on my bucket list.
We'll have to have you to the Macomb Center here. I'll
Yeah,
make sure I tell William Wood, our director, to make sure he books you live in person as soon as we can safely open our doors.
definitely. But I mean, there's just so many places that I never thought I'd ever go in my life.
Mhm.
Um, uh, where would be? Okay, I'm gonna pick somewhere in the States. Um, like Kansas. Because I watch an unhealthy amount of basketball.
Okay.
On college basketball too. So I like Kansas. Jayhawks. I was like, wow, like, and I went there, and I was the only one like I was hyped up seeing the Jayhawks. We're here. But yeah. Sorry, there's just too many to answer. But
Oh, no
yeah,
problem. That's wonderful. So this kind of piggybacks on that in an interesting way, but you mentioned yourself as a Japanese American coming to the group. Do members of the group come from all around the world, or are they more concentrated in Japan?
definitely more concentrated in Japan. I have another performer who's from San Francisco. Uh, but most of the people are born and raised in Japan,
Hmm.
and we do have apprentices. We've had apprentices in the past from all over the world, like Switzerland or um, Sweden, France, Korea, everywhere. But obviously, they didn't get selected in the selection process. I would say what's unique is that even though everyone's born and raised in Japan, a lot of people who come here have like an open
Hmm.
minded. They're very accepting of different cultures. I think it's because we tour all around the world under the banner of One Earth.
Hmm.
We really believe that we can bring people together through the sound of our drums. So it sometimes it doesn't feel too um, homogenic.
Hmm.
Homogenic. Um, is that the right word? Homogeneous?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Homogeneous is. um, yeah. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions in the chat here where we have a few more minutes left. Um, Let me see what else I would like to ask. So you just hit on this point, but the changing the world through the drumming. The drum is such a universal sound. It kind of mirrors the heartbeat in some ways, and I think that was one of the things I missed most watching the performance is, not being able to be at the Macomb Center in the hall with you, that the resonance of the drum, that, those vibrations to kind of go out to everyone. So that was something I'm looking forward to the next time we can have you through. Let me see here. Do you have a particularly favorite piece to play?
Um, there's a piece called Miyake. It's in the video. It's where you get very low and you hit the drum sideways.
Hmm.
That is my favorite one. I'm actually in it, but I'm not facing the camera. So
Sure.
yeah.
Are there others in the troupe that are into classical training, that have classical training, I guess?
Not so much. There are people with musical backgrounds, like they were in a band or they studied piano when they were little, but not too many classical trained people.
Okay. Are the flutes made of bamboo with 6-tone holes?
6-tone holes. Yeah, I actually have it with me right now. So, six. How many holes are there? I don't think there are 6. I think there's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not sure what 6-tone holes means, but
See, that was a question from Lois. I don't know, Lois, if you'd like to expand on that a little bit, but they are made of bamboo, the flutes?
Yes, bamboo flutes. And each one has its own tuning. Like it's tuned in C or tuned in like C major or D major. So depending on the piece, we have to change the flute.
Are they are those made by apprentices, or are they something that there's a go-to manufacturer for you, or are you
We do
making
have
those yourself?
Yeah, we do have someone that we go to and get our drum make them for us. This one actually I made it during my apprenticeship, but obviously the flute craftsman came and lectured us, so I just made the holes. But and to answer Lewis's question, I think there's one hole you blow into, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes, 7 tone holes. So
Okay. And Karen asks, what's the material of the surface of the taiko?
usually it's cowhide. We do have some that are made out of horse hide, and there are a small number that are made out of. Oh, actually, no. It's mostly cowhide and some with horse.
Okay, let's see here. There was Karen adds, there used to be a Tycho Center in Novi, Michigan pre-COVID. Not sure if it's still there. She took a class and quickly realized how incredibly difficult it is. And she's appreciative of your time and thanks you and is grateful to have had this experience talking with you. Karen certainly speaks for all of us. And thank you so much, Leo, for sharing your time. And does anyone else have another question? We're just about out of time, I think. But any last couple of questions here? Let's see. Oh, everyone is saying thank you. So, Leo, thank you so much. I know I speak for many of us that we're so thankful to have you and your expertise in providing this background knowledge for us that, I don't know that we would get just watching the performance. It's such a wonderful experience to see it. But some of your perspective and your story that you've shared with us really illuminates it in a much more personal way. So I want to thank you for your time today. And thank you for sharing with us. And everyone, I want to thank you for joining us, taking advantage of watching our streaming programming. We do have a Page to Stage series, which is usually our series for school children. We know that lots of students are learning at home, and it's all free of charge. We're able to offer that because of our sponsors at First State Bank and also the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs. So that is free of charge. If you'd like to check that out at our website, macombcenter.com. And I want to thank you for joining us for this streaming opportunity. And I do believe when we close out the session here, Leo, I will be losing you as well. But again, thank you so much for your time. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us this evening on your Friday night.
Thank you for having me. Everyone stay safe and warm.
Yes, stay safe and warm, and you as well in the snow you were telling us about. Yes, all right, everyone. Take care. Have a good evening.
Take care.